The Israeli military concedes the 3 hostages it mistakenly killed were holding a makeshift white flag. Ex-tropical cyclone Jasper continues to wreak havoc with a flood emergency unfolding in far north Queensland. How honeypot ants from WA's goldfields could hold the key to new medical treatments. And Nathan Lyon joins cricket's elite, taking his 500th Test wicket as Australia thrashes Pakistan in Perth. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Briana Shepherd. The Israeli military has revealed 3 hostages mistakenly killed by Israeli soldiers were holding a white flag when they were shot. The chief of the IDF has taken responsibility for the deaths, saying the hostages did all they could to signal they were civilians. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to press on with the war, but has also suggested new negotiations with Hamas over the hostages are underway.
For 10 weeks, Israelis have been calling for the release of hostages. Those pleas now turning to anger as new details emerge of 3 Israeli hostages mistakenly killed by their own army.
A deal is required today. Bring them home now!
Alon Shamriz, Yotam Chaim and Sama Talalka, all in their 20s, had emerged shirtless from a building in Gaza. The military now says they were holding a makeshift white flag when an Israeli soldier opened fire. 2 were killed instantly. A 3rd injured returned to the building but later died.
Mistakes will happen. Once it happened, we came out. Not a lot of militaries do that.
It's Israel's first such acknowledgement of harming any hostages in the war. The IDF chief says an initial inquiry into the incident has found the shooting violated the military's rules of engagement. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation to express his sympathy, but also make it clear he wouldn't scale back or stop the fighting.
We are in a war for our existence, which we must continue until victory, despite the international pressure.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's now talking with Qatar for new negotiations on hostage release. Hamas, for its part, says it's told mediators there'll be no new negotiations until the aggression stops once and for all. Earlier this week, the IDF posted this video of what it claimed were terror operatives surrendering their weapons outside a hospital in northern Gaza. Palestinians sheltering there say Kamal Adwan Hospital was besieged and raided by Israeli troops.
They took all the staff out for investigation. Even the patients were being investigated.
A local journalist in Gaza reported seeing Israeli bulldozers crush tents and people sheltering in the courtyard.
They just killed people. People are still buried under the rubble.
Israel hasn't commented on the allegations, but says it found Hamas weaponry inside the hospital. Across Gaza, rubble and ruin is everywhere. The recovery not limited to the search for bodies.
Our house is damaged, but all of our stuff is in it, so we're searching now for our toys.
This house was our shelter. All our nice stuff was here. Our bikes, clothes, everything.
Many Gazans have not only lost homes or loved ones, entire memories have also been buried. Alison Horn, ABC News, Jerusalem.
A new task force is being set up to tackle rorting of the National Disability Insurance Scheme. NDIS Minister Bill Shorten says there are countless examples of providers jacking up their fees for essential equipment and services. The NDIS Commission's powers will be strengthened and providers will be threatened with fines if they're found to be in breach of the rules. Some of the changes will come into force this week, while others will need parliamentary approval in the new year.
I have, a service that comes around and mows my lawns and does my gardening. This isn't a very sophisticated service, they're just mowing the lawn, but if they know I'm an NDIS participant, I get charged more for that service than what I do a regular person coming around to mow my lawns. And so if for something like that, I'm sick of being seen as a rolling dollar sign. I'm sick of being seen as somebody's cash cow.
We want to make ripping off disabled people with overcharging for services as unpopular as parking in a disabled car spot. You just shouldn't do it. It's unethical, but now we're going to give the legal backup.
A flood disaster is unfolding in far north Queensland tonight. Torrential rain has caused rivers to burst their banks, roads are cut and people are isolated, with homes starting to go under. A record amount of rain has fallen, the Cairns Mayor declaring the downpour unprecedented.
It's not called the wet tropics for nothing. But this is absolutely drenched.
Here we are on the Barron River Bridge, ladies and gentlemen. The other side, raging thunder.
From Cooktown to Cairns to Cardwell, the rain has been relentless.
21 gauges already that have received over a metre of rain within the last 7 days.
The rivers have responded, rising to major flood levels and sweeping livestock away.
That'll be one tired cow.
Cairns Northern Beaches district is awash. Residents were told to move to higher ground.
Well, welcome to the wet season.
People have had water inside their homes. There's reports of anywhere from 300 millimetres to 500 millimetres of water inside low-set homes.
37 people are sheltering in evacuation centres.
So this is very serious and it could get worse.
The council's flood cameras show bridges have gone under, roads have been cut or cracked wide open.
This is the worst we've seen it in years.
Cairns Airport is now closed, disrupting holiday plans. Cairns is an island with roads cut in every direction. It's a similar situation in towns across the north. We're used to our dumping rain here in the wet season, but even locals say they've never seen anything like this. In Innisfail, homes in low-lying areas are going under. Further south in Ingham, businesses are preparing as the waters rise.
It's better to be safe than sorry, as they always say.
Swiftwater rescue crews are on high alert.
Everyone's calm and, we're just thankful that we've got a good community who knows what they're doing and are well prepared.
They'll need to be because there's more rain to come.
There's a very high likelihood that we will continue to see high rainfall rates over the next 24 hours.
This is life-threatening events.
The rain's expected to ease on Tuesday. Christy Sexton-McGrath, ABC News, Cairns.
Staff at Banksia Hill Juvenile Detention Centre spent much of the night negotiating with two detainees who had scaled the roof of a building. The two young people climbed up around 6 o'clock in the evening. The Department of Justice confirmed Banksia Hill staff responded to what it called a behavioural issue with the detainees. All other inmates were kept in their cells at the centre, where there was a destructive riot in May. The Premier says the two detainees came down voluntarily after about 5 hours of negotiations.
My understanding was that one of the staff was struck by falling debris. However, that particular person was wearing PPE and didn't come to any harm. But we will now need to assess the damage.
The state government has announced the next stage of major works for the redevelopment of the Ocean Reef Marina in Perth's north. A $107 million contract has been awarded to Giorgio Group to commence the major civil and marina works. They include a 150-metre family beach with shark net protection and Perth's first coastal pool, set to open in 2026. More than 1,000 homes and 68 residential lots will also be created, with some used for social and affordable housing. Once completed, the marina is expected to become a tourism drawcard for WA.
I think it's going to be incredibly popular. I think this will be a fantastic place to visit. I'm sure it'll also be a popular Instagram spot. So I think this will be amazing. I think people will flock to an ocean pool.
The federal government announced plans this week to crunch migration levels by almost half in 2 years, labelling the current system broken. But as the ABC's Alan Kohler explains, the historic highs have also kept Australia's economy out of recession.
For this last in-depth special for the year, I want to give you my version of what was important in the Australian economy in 2023. Here's something you know about: the boom in immigration.
Although you might not know, it looks quite like this on a graph going back to 1861. Without that, Australia would have been in recession all year. Last week, the government announced some changes to the immigration system, including a halving of the intake from 500,000 to 250,000 by 2025.
Except that would still be historically high. And anyway, the Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill said it's not a target, it's an estimate. Well, a target is rubbery enough, but an estimate, it could be anything. My second big thing is the increase in income tax.
We know that households have been hammered by interest rate increases, but the increase in tax as a share of income has been just as much, 5% each, leading to a 10% erosion of incomes. And that was mainly caused by bracket creep, where wages rise into higher tax brackets. And the result has been a collapse of real household disposable income per capita.
But there is some good news to end with, and it's this.
In March this year, China became the world's biggest exporter of cars, thanks to massive government subsidies of its electric vehicle industry. Well, why is that good news? Because we supply the iron ore and the coal and some of the gas, nickel, copper and lithium. The iron ore price has surged 30% in the second half of this year, despite the collapse of China's construction sector, because of all the cars it's making.
So to sum up the year that was, we've been crushed by interest rates and tax, but the statistical economy has been kept afloat by a stampede of migrants and by China's monstering of the global car industry with subsidies. So Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Wet, hot and muggy conditions have resulted in a boom in mosquitoes in parts of Australia, and as medical professionals worried about a rise in mosquito-borne diseases this summer. A simple mosquito bite has left one young man on the Victoria-New South Wales border battling 3 potentially deadly encephalitis cases.
Dylan Meyer's family did not think they'd have a Christmas together again.
Back in March, I was actually planning my 21-year-old's funeral in my head.
The Albury man went camping along the Murray River at Rutherglen, but fell seriously ill after he was bitten by mosquitoes. He was diagnosed with Japanese encephalitis virus, Murray Valley encephalitis virus and autoimmune encephalitis, spending over 4 months on life support.
Hi, Brendan.
Hi, Brendan. I was aware of the virus. I just didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was another mosquito bite.
Encephalitis causes brain inflammation and has a high mortality rate. Corowa resident David Kiefel fell victim to Japanese encephalitis last year. His wife wants better awareness around the danger of mosquitoes.
I think it's one of those things that needs to be done each season, every year, particularly with the influx of visitors.
Murray Valley encephalitis virus was detected in Victoria earlier this year for the first time since 1974.
We don't have any good underlying data to know how prevalent this condition is in our population, so this will help us understand the risk in our area.
People can avoid mosquito bites with clothing and repellent or be vaccinated against Japanese encephalitis if eligible. Advice Dylan hopes others heed this festive season as he continues his long road to recovery.
It's not a matter of if I'll get there, I will get there. I'm determined to get there.
Erin Somerville, ABC News.
The antibacterial properties of honey from bees have been known for decades. But a study analysing honey produced by ants in the West Australian goldfields could lead to new medical treatments. While scientists are only just delving into its benefits, Aboriginal people have been using honey from ants as a treatment for generations.
On the outskirts of Kalgoorlie, Edie Ulrich and her sister are digging for gold. But it's not precious metal the sisters are looking for.
Oh, you can see them. There's a thing. I think we're getting onto the big chamber, isn't it?
The Japan women are after honey ants, a little-known delicacy used by Aboriginal people for thousands of years.
It's the honey taste, but I reckon it's sweeter.
But the ants swollen with honey also serve another purpose.
So that translated means getting some honey ants for my throat to make it better.
The ants have been used by Aboriginal people to treat a range of ailments, from cuts to colds. A team of scientists from Sydney studying the West Australian ants say they could hold the key to new medical treatments.
So we found that the honey was very effective at killing some types of bacteria and fungi that can cause disease in humans. And what was really exciting about this was that these types of microbes are actually ones that we consider to be really tough and really hard to kill.
While the properties of ant honey have been shown to be effective against infections like golden staph, scientists say more research is needed before the full benefits are known. But with the ants locked deep beneath the desert floor, getting access to more samples could take some time.
The honey is a really precious resource. The ants don't make a lot of it, so we were only able to really scratch the surface, I would say, of what we might be able to find.
If scientists can break down the honey's unique chemical compounds, then the next step is finding a way to access more samples to turn it into new antibiotics. Andrew Chounding, ABC News, Kalgoorlie.
Now to tonight's special report on the rise of a form of superannuation fraud in Australia, described in court as destructive and bizarre. The scheme has left investors with no savings for retirement after they were advised to roll their superannuation into a self-managed fund.
In the outback town of Burke in northwest New South Wales, several residents are recovering from a devastating case of financial crime.
These people worked hard all their lives for what they have, and it's gone in a matter of seconds. It's been a real battle.
Tony Edwards is one of the victims. The Murrawarri man works casually in shearing stations, sometimes going away for weeks at a time. By his early 50s, he'd saved up around $90,000 in superannuation.
Well, I was hoping to reach 65 and be able to draw on my super, you know, and settle back in life.
It was just before Christmas 4 years ago that Tony was short on cash to buy presents. He was put onto an investment firm down in Melbourne. Its director told Tony he'd be able to access $5,000 of his super if he rolled the rest into a self-managed fund.
He had all these schemes going, and he sent us all the paperwork, me and my partner. We filled out the paperwork.
Christmas passed and soon Tony realised that something was wrong.
Kept on ignoring my calls and wouldn't take any calls, and I felt really sick in the gut, so I didn't even want to tell my partner, but I had to, you know, break the news that I think we've been scammed and, yeah, we have no money left.
Almost 4 years after Tony lost his super, the scheme's director, Mudassir Mohammed Nasser-Darin, has now pleaded guilty to financial crimes. The County Court of Victoria hearing that he started off at the age of 24, firstly convincing several people in Melbourne's Islamic community to put their super into self-managed funds.
He told us that he's investing in property and that he gets his return from those units. He said it's fully halal, Islamic compliant, not investing in alcohol, cigarettes or tobacco.
This man, who we'll call Abdullah, is appalled to know that his super, according to receiver's documents, appears to have been spent on expensive cars, horses and shares in a security company. How is everyone who lost money feeling?
They're feeling very brokenhearted and sad and angry at the same time.
Abdullah also wants to know why the Tax Office, which regulates self-managed super funds and financial institutions facilitating transfers, didn't do more to stop this scheme.
I am worried that there is insufficient oversight when people create an SMSF such that they can be exploited by third parties that are doing the wrong thing.
The Consumer Advocate says that investors are highly unlikely to get their cash back because the scheme wasn't operating with an appropriate financial services licence that covers clients for any potential losses.
It's unfair and not appropriate to be expecting people to know that a particular provider is licensed or unlicensed. And it's really on our regulators to be taking positive action and shutting down these schemes.
Investment scams are costing Australians $1 billion a year, and the corporate watchdog is warning that superannuation scams are on the rise.
People are being tricked to rolling their entire superannuation savings out of a retail fund into a so-called self-managed super fund, which is actually in the name of a criminal.
Anyone can get caught by these criminals. The reality is there is a scam for everyone.
Madassi Mohammed Nasser-Darin is now facing years in jail. The court heard that after he's released and starts working again, he could be forced to pay back his investors, which could take years and won't help Tony Edwards as he approaches retirement age.
All I want is for this bloke to go to jail, do some jail time and be penalised for what he's done. How many more people are going to get ripped off?
Amelia Terzon, ABC News.
The issue of school bullying in South Korea has been thrown into the spotlight after a Korean drama exposed the brutal reality many students endure. South Korea is working to address the problem, but for many victims, it's too little too late. North Asia correspondent James Oaten reports from Seoul.
As a private eye, Son Hae-yong spends a lot of time on the road, and one type of job is keeping him busier than usual.
Usually parents call when there's been a lot of change in their child's behaviour. They think that their child might be being bullied at school. They contact me to confidentially investigate whether that's true.
Armed with a long-range camera, Son Hae-yong takes up position outside a school, capturing evidence without raising suspicion. He also has a range of hidden cameras, if the job requires it.
In the past, we only received about one phone call or text message per day regarding school violence, but now we are receiving more than 2 or 3 calls a day.
It's this scene from the Korean drama The Glory that's reignited calls for action. The drama's unapologetic depiction of bullying has resonated within South Korean society. 8 years ago, Lee Ga-chul's daughter took her own life after being subjected to relentless physical and psychological bullying.
The violence committed by students is becoming more cunning and cruel, but adults are just shocked and unable to do anything about it.
For over a decade, suicide has been the leading cause of death in South Korea for people aged between 10 and 39. Bullying is often cited as a contributing factor.
South Korea has ramped up its penalties for perpetrators, with schools now required to keep a student's bullying record for 4 years after graduation, meaning it could cost them a university placement. It's also setting up a dedicated refuge for victims where they can live and continue their studies in safety.
Shining some light on the dark side of growing up. James Oaten, ABC News, Seoul.
Now to Tom Wildie for sport. And Tom, Nathan Lyon has done it.
He's written himself into cricketing history, Bree, becoming just the 8th player and the 3rd Australian to take 500 Test wickets. Lyon was made to wait for the milestone as Australia's quicks tore through Pakistan's top order on the way to claiming victory by 360 runs inside 4 days.
After enduring a barrage of short stuff late on day 3, Steve Smith and Usman Khawaja walked out to see big cracks on the Perth Stadium wicket. And Karim Shahzad had the ball moving early.
He starts really well.
He was rewarded, trapping Smith LBW for 45 by the slimmest of margins.
Yeah. Lucky they're fat bales.
Travis Head had a lucky escape.
Oh, hello. The old periscope.
But he couldn't survive when he lashed an Amir Jamal delivery as Pakistan clawed its way back into the match. Khawaja had slowly built an innings, but variable bounce still troubled the opener. Mitch Marsh was struck in the head before miscuing one to mid-off, where he was dropped by Pakistan captain Shan Masood.
Hamid and down.
The tourist toiled with little reward, Khawaja surviving a tight LBW shout with a clever review before posting a half-century. Marsh joining him shortly after, posting his second 50 of the Test match.
Straight through the covers again, 2 glorious shots.
But his aggressive approach came at a cost as he wore another bouncer in the head. Australia declaring not long after when Khawaja fell for 90, setting Pakistan 450 for victory. The chase did not start well.
Edged and taken, he's got the first.
Masood followed soon after, edging Josh Hazlewood as Alex Carey claimed his 100th dismissal as wicketkeeper. The top order in tatters as Stark struck again.
The umpire says it's out.
When Babar Azam fell, Australia's victory seemed imminent. And all eyes turned to Nathan Lyon and his search for 500 Test wickets. And after several close calls, it happened.
That's really good. His 500th confirms his place in cricket history. He is truly a great.
Lyon becoming just the 8th player in history to reach the milestone. Josh Hazlewood then cleaned up the tail as Australia romped home to win by 360 runs inside 4 days.
The latest crop of AFLW hopefuls will gather tomorrow night for the 2023 draft after a busy trade period which saw 41 players move clubs. Over 500 women have nominated for this year's intake, with all eyes on the Western Bulldogs, who hold the coveted #1 pick.
The sky's the limit for Christy Lee Weston Turner. The 18-year-old's just finished Year 11 but has high hopes for a storied AFLW career.
I do want to be the captain of a footy club one day, yeah.
Weston Turner grew up playing with the boys at Sunshine Heights. She could join her childhood hero Marcus Bontempelli at the Whitten Oval if the Western Bulldogs take her at #1.
To potentially play at a club where he is and, you know, learn that from him and gain those leadership skills, yeah, it's unreal.
The key forward impressed at October's combine with pace and a vertical leap to match and has no shortage of suitors ahead of Monday night.
I'm excited, but I'm nervous. But yeah, it's just a waiting game from now on.
Footy mad Gemma Rigoni gets her chance too.
It's all surreal and I just want to, savour every moment.
She could join a small but growing cohort of father-daughter draftees. Dad Guy Rigoni played for Melbourne and is impressed by his daughter's determination to bounce back from a recent ACL injury.
I thought she might have called the quits on footy, but just the way she worked in her rehab and just recovery, and that will help her in life and footy.
The bidding on father-daughter picks will be live for the first time, the Demons needing to match a bid with a pick no more than 1 round later or risk missing out.
I, hope to carry on the footy legacy like my dad, but I also want to end up at a club that wants me for, what I can bring to the team.
Gemma's spent the past year behind the bar at the MCG, a job she's not sure she'll be able to carry on if she gets picked up.
I can't have a late night before a game. It will be a bit tougher. Maybe we'll stick to the day games.
The draft kicks off tomorrow night in Melbourne. Erin Marsicovetere, ABC News.
The captain of English Premier League side Luton Town, Tom Lockyer, is recovering in hospital after he suffered a cardiac arrest and collapsed on the field during a match against Bournemouth. The 29-year-old received medical treatment and was responsive as he was carried off and taken to hospital. The game was abandoned. Luton says Lockyer is stable and currently undergoing further tests. It's the second time this year he's collapsed during a match. And we hope he makes a quick recovery. And Bree, that is the latest in sport.
Thank you, Tom. Well, it was a warm night for the city and another sunny day with more of those ahead. Right now in town it's 25 degrees and humidity is 53%. Perth dropped down to just 21.5 degrees, around 20 to 6 this morning, rising to a top of 31.5 a little before midday. The state's coolest spot was Ayr, which recorded a minimum of 10 degrees, while in the north the state's highest maximum of 44 was reached at Forest. To the satellite very briefly, cloud in the central east and southeast with a trough is generating some thunderstorms, clearer elsewhere with drier winds. A broad trough will persist over the inland Kimberley and Pilbara during the week. The trough moving over the Eucla and south interior should be clear of WA by early tomorrow morning. A ridge is developing south of the state with a new trough expected to form off the west coast. Taking a quick look around the country tomorrow, a shower or two developing in 28 for Adelaide, partly cloudy, a top of 30 for Melbourne, showers increasing 21 in Hobart, partly cloudy 29 for both Canberra and Sydney, a top of 32 set for Brisbane with a mostly sunny top of 36 for Darwin. Back to WA and in the north, showers and thunderstorms over the northern Kimberley. Very hot over the Kimberley, Pilbara, northern interior and across inland northern parts of the central west. Windy across central districts. Chance of a light shower along the south coast between Bremer Bay and Eucla. Sunny for Perth tomorrow, a top of 32 after an overnight low of 16 degrees. Sunrise will be at 5:05, setting at 20 minutes past 7. And looking ahead, there's some strongish winds about early in the week, gusts of up to 85 kilometres per hour about Perth Hills and foothills possible on Tuesday morning with a top of 33 degrees expected. Heating up midweek, a top of 37 set for Thursday before cooling off a little towards the end of the week. And that's ABC News for now. You can stay up to date with ABC News Online or you can catch the news anytime on ABC iView. Bye for now.